Today's youth are undergoing historic challenges and so much change. But through the Boys and Girls Clubs of West San Gabriel Valley and Eastside, at least one thing in their lives remains constant, and that's the club.
We started in 2019 this concept of being very mobile. It's a kind of innovative way of trying to figure out how to connect with the kids in the community. Our Beyond the Walls concept is to take what we do well inside the club, outside the club.
Our arts program has helped thousands of youth unleash their creativity and express themselves more freely. Our mobile pop-ups bringing arts resources directly to kids who wouldn't otherwise have access. Our sailing club has been a huge success, mobilizing hundreds of kids out of the inner city so they can experience the ocean, often for the first time in their lives. Another one of our great programs is Brent's Club.
I'm Shannon Thompson, the Executive Director for the Brent Shapiro Foundation. We are a drug prevention program that's evidence-based, so we do mental wellness programs. We have a lot of recreational programs.
We need to be educated in order to understand that these things aren't good for us.
Now that I have a leadership role, I can set the example to other kids, and that's really motivating.
I stay sober for myself.
My future is definitely something that's super important to me, and that's not something I want to put at risk.
And what's really amazing is that these mobile clubs became more than a great idea when suddenly they became a lifeline for our youth and communities.
I would say that the club was prepared because of its leadership. We didn't want to close. Being a part of the club meant something different. I'm really proud of the kids. I'm really proud of their commitment. We're ready. We're ready for the next challenge.
Because commitment means that just because our doors have to close doesn't mean the club has to close.
We can show up with the space, with the staff, and provide a clinic or a service that is still needed.
The nice thing about the pop-up club is that it can be really anything that the kids need it to be.
And in addition to these vital programs, we were able to serve our local communities like never before through random acts of kindness, drive-through parades, vaccination support for the elderly, meal support for families, home visits and substance abuse prevention, mental and emotional wellness, and so much more.
In some ways, the club is the most constant thing in my life.
And as we move forward, our clubs aren't slowing down. Because of people like you, we can continue building these life-changing programs and showing up for youth when, where, and how they need us. Thank you from all of us at the Boys and Girls Clubs of West San Gabriel Valley and Eastside. To learn more about how you can get involved and support this mission, please visit www.wsgvbgc.org.
I'm muted. Hey everyone, welcome to the Boys and Girls Club of West San Gabriel Valley Eastside's 4th annual Champion for Youth Breakfast, presented by Hot Topic Foundation. I am your host, Dr. John Paul. I am a media maven. I love to write. I do a lot of work in our communities around the needs of our youth, specifically queer, Black, trans, non-binary youth, those who are ultimately showing up in our DEI spaces. And I am just so grateful that I get to help and continue to support the needs of the youth in our local community. So before we kick off this morning's event, I would like to take an opportunity to thank several organizations and people and so many individuals who helped to make this in particular event happen. The first person, or I would say the first organization that I would love to thank is the Hot Topic Foundation. I would also really like to thank the SJL Insurance Services and Southwestern Wealth Management Group. I would also like to thank SoCal Gas, the American Business Bank, the Honorable Anthony Duarte, Milk Farm, Diamond Jamboree and Sam Schwab, Chris Puizo and Julie Hernandez. And we would also like to shout out some of the fantastic individuals who helped to make this event happen, as well as the individuals who brought me in to make this event go today. So I would love to thank Julie Hernandez, Chris Priezo, Shannon Thompson, J.R. Dusbach, Yvonne Ning, and Curtis Sumblum. So with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into meeting some of our panelists, as well as the individuals who have shared so much information to make sure, or doing the work. I would say a lot of these individuals like myself are doing the work to make sure that, the youth have what they need. And so with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of popcorn to all of our panelists for them to share who they are, where they're from, and ultimately what brings them to our organization or to the talk today. So first up, we have Michelle. If you could go ahead and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. I am Michelle Wolfenstein. I work as the executive director to SoCal Hospice Foundation. We serve terminally ill children and adults throughout Southern California. And I'm here today to share my personal story of hope and hopefully be an inspiration to y'all. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Our next panelist is H. Walker. If you want to go ahead and let folks know who you are and what you do, that would be fantastic.
Thank you so very much. And good morning, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here. My name is H. Walker, and yes, H is my birth name. So in case anybody is wondering, no, it's not short for anything. H is my birth name. And I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer for Boys and Girls Club of America. And this was an easy yes, the ability to be here with you all and to be a part of a learning community and a growing community focused on what our kids need and those who need us most. So it's a pleasure and a privilege. Thanks so very much.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to hear from you. The next person that we have up on our panel is Andre Norman. Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do as well? Andre, are you there? I don't know if Andre's on, so we're going to go ahead and we'll come back to Andre. We'll go ahead and jump to Hattie Mitchell. If you want to go ahead and share with us a little bit about who you are, that would be fantastic.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. My name is Hattie Mitchell. I'm the founder of Crete Academy. We are a nonprofit charter school located in South Los Angeles with the mission of serving kids TK through 6th grade who are experiencing homelessness and extreme poverty. So as H. Walker said, this was an easy yes for me. I'm happy to be here and hopefully learn from everyone and contribute to the conversation. And it looks like Andre is back on, so I can kick it off to him. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Andre, if you can tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, that would be fantastic.
Yes. I was here for all the introductions. How you doing, H? It's a great first name, by the way. It's original. My name is Andre Norman, and what I do for a living is called youth outreach. I work with kids all over the world, 30 countries. I love showing up and helping them, and my superpower is listening. So that's what I do. I go around the world and I help the kids and I help them be heard, so their voices can just go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love that you said that. Your superpower is listening. That is so important for all of us because, again, you learn more when you listen. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump to Carolina.
Hello, good morning, everyone. It is, again, a pleasure to be here with all of you. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you to my fellow panelists. It's so great to be among such wonderful company. My name is Carolina Castillo. I serve as Executive Director of Development for USC Civic Engagement and Economic Partnerships. I also manage our USC's Corporate Social Responsibility program called Good Neighbors, which has been in effect for almost 30 years now. And we partner with our local communities in the East area as well as South Los Angeles. I also live in the East area, so being here is very close to me and personal. And the work that we do as a community and that we do at USC is very personal to me as well in terms of supporting our youth and our communities in partnership, doing it together and just maximizing those relationships. So thank you again for being a part of this.
Thank you for being here. All right, and then last but not least, we have Florencio. If you could tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, that would be so great.
Absolutely. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone today. My name is Florencio Briones. My pronouns are he, him, his. I serve as a deputy supervisor for Supervisor Hilda Solis, who is chair of the LA County Board of Supervisors representing the 1st District. I cover the unincorporated communities of the Puente Valley within the San Gabriel Valley. And I also serve as the supervisor's LGBTQ liaison to the district. And it's a great pleasure to be here with everyone this morning.
Thank you so much. And yes, I am just so grateful to be in such great company with so many great people doing so many great things for our community. I wanted to share very quickly before we jump into the actual panel that a quick club fact. The club has been open 6 days a week since the pandemic began and has served over 3,500 youth. So just wanted to share that information as we're going into kind of this talk. And so with knowing that information, I guess I'll go ahead and kick it off to H. Walker, and then we can just kind of keep going down the line. The question that I have for all of you, kind of knowing these facts and kind of knowing what's going on, what has been the greatest challenge that our youth are facing specifically in this moment?
Yeah, thank you so very much for the question. 3 things. One would be which the opening video was deeply inspiring because of the lack of social mobility for our youth. Literally just leaving their zip code and experiencing either their city, their state, the nation, or the world. And I know at Boys and Girls Club of America and Boys and Girls Club, we have an opportunity to make sure that our youth are global citizens and introduce them to every culture around the world so they can go to university anywhere in the world and also have careers anywhere in the world. Also, it's really important to understand that our youth do not have the level of agency, the ability to co-create their futures, or the ability to be the architects of their futures in a safe way that makes sense for them. And only can you find that at Boys and Girls Club. So I'm excited at what everyone is doing to make sure that our youth of the future have social mobility to go anywhere in the world and have a safe place in Boys and Girls Club where they can co-create their futures and be the architects of their futures. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. I love the idea of being an architect of their future. That's amazing. Carolina, I'll go ahead and bump it over to you. So what has been the greatest challenge that you've noted that youth have been facing in this current moment?
Yes, thank you so much. And I really appreciate, H, your comments, because I think I'm going to kind of piggyback off of that. In the work that we've been doing at USC through Good Neighbors and our other efforts with our local communities, we see many different challenges and opportunities. I want to frame this also in the face of, in terms of opportunities for our youth. So I think what I'm going to focus on for this particular question has to do with the educational attainment. And as H, you mentioned, sense of agency is really the leadership development of our youth. So, we're in a time now where we're all experiencing an awakening of the social conscience of our nation and our society. And we realize that we can't act the way we have been in the past pre-COVID, right? We have to act in a different way moving forward. And I see our youth at the forefront of this movement. As the video talked about, how youth are being empowered through the work of the Boys and Girls Club. I see that also with other programs and how they're showing up in their communities. They're agents of transformation in different ways. And I see this as a way for us to also support them. Youth are now much more politically active than they have been ever before. And so again, this is an opportunity to support them in their leadership development. I also see their social emotional well-being as a real key aspect. That's something that, all of our well-being, but especially for our youth, is really, really important in order to build that foundation to allow them to continue to flourish in their leadership. So, they're experiencing significant stress, concerns about health, the financial well-being of their families, their own educational attainment, and the other issues that you mentioned, H. So again, those are the things that I think we can do more in supporting our youth and creating that safety net through our collective efforts. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for that information. Or even just that thought along the lines of what social emotional capital looks like for our youth. Andre, would you like to add anything to the conversation in regards to what you think our youth are facing?
I believe our youth are facing a similar problem that we were facing when we were youth is adults make all the decisions and they hand down edicts versus having conversations. When I was a little kid, we went to the boys club and the girls club, we went to the different parks, and it was always the adults thinking what was best for us. And they had our best interests in heart, they had our best well-being in mind, but very rarely did they ask us what we were thinking and what we thought. And as I've become an adult, and I'm no longer a little 12-year-old kid in front of the building, I try to make sure that we don't become our parents in the sense of we don't ask the kids what they think, what they feel, what they want, versus we create what we think they feel, want, and need. So I think one of the biggest challenges is for us adults to have the kids sitting at the table, not in a kind of sort of position, but a real position, because we're actually all working collectively to make their lives better. And I just believe their voice should be heard.
Yes, giving them a voice. That is so important. Hattie, have you thought about this as well in the work that you're doing with your organization?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a big question. I was just sitting here listening to all the answers, and it's like, gosh, the youth really are faced with a lot. This generation not only has some of the issues and problems that we had as kids, but now they're in the age of technology and social media. And I think the access to information is just equally powerful and dangerous for them. So I think a little bit about what H said with regard to kids being able to leave their cities and spaces and travel. And with the pandemic, especially our Black and brown kids and our kids in poverty, not only are they not experiencing the world, they're limited to sometimes a 1-bedroom apartment with a single mom and 5 siblings, right? And the mental health, I think to Carolina's point, thinking about their social emotional well-being and the mental health, I think that is the number one issue at the forefront of my mind. I think we're at a place just in the world where we are becoming equally more accepting and also more discriminatory. We have kind of two sides, and we see that with race, we see it with gender, we see it with class. And so our kids are in the middle of that. And social media, and they're all a part of it, compounds that. And I do think about their mental health. And I think that's why it's so important for us to have this conversation. And to Andre's point, to be really thinking and listening to what kids are saying their needs are. But yeah, I don't have answers at this time. I think I just have more thoughts than anything really about the mental health of our kids and wanting to figure out how best to support them.
Yeah, and also dealing with the pandemic with all of the things that are added on. The mental health piece is so important to take note of. We'll bounce to Florencio and then Michelle, and then we'll move on to the next question. Florencio, have you given thought, to what the greatest challenge may look like, and even maybe how it has shaped the way that you've done your work in the last couple of months?
Absolutely. I think if you had asked me that question 13 or 14, 15 months ago, the answer may have been a lot more focused. But considering the once in a lifetime event that all of us are living through right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it really has forced us to reevaluate what our priorities are as a society. I think if I were to narrow it down, I would say number one priority or issue that our kids are facing today is probably going to be mental health challenges. There were a lot of difficulties experienced by individuals in the past where you could focus on assisting somebody, with equitable access to health, or education, or access to other resources. But now everything has just kind of been compounded by COVID, and it really bogs down on everyone, particularly youth. And as an aside, I'm also a school board member, and I've seen firsthand the impact that COVID has had on our students. And as Hattie just mentioned, some of our students live in a 1-bedroom apartment. Sometimes it's a rented room with other siblings and other family members. And it takes a toll on them when they're not able to get out into the world and experience their safety net. And I think, we really can't do much more until you address a lot of the inequities that exist in the world, because those inequities will impact someone's mental health. And we really need to focus on that and to provide, a safety net for them to ensure that they're able to not only survive, but to thrive as well. So, short answer, I think mental health is probably one of the biggest challenges right now. Long answer, it's a multitude of issues, and it's a very multifaceted conversation that we all should be having.
Thank you so much for that. I do think that I'm glad that this conversation is happening now, because I think it's going to help us figure out how we kind of navigate the future and the work that we're doing. Michelle, are there any thoughts, as well in regards to the way that you do your work and how the challenges have impacted that?
Well, I completely agree with the last two panelists. Mental health is absolutely the greatest challenge. And I think in mostly because of COVID-19. I think that for the most part, when children are educated on Zoom and being on Zoom for 8 hours a day and not having that social interaction, it's really taken its toll. And that's why I think Boys and Girls Club is so important, because it gives kids a space to go and gather and be amongst their peers and even have adult mentors to lean on. The suicide rate is up for our youth. We host bereavement workshops in the community free of charge, and we've had an increase, about 30% of suicide teens who have committed suicide. So I think that that's a huge challenge for our youth.
Yeah, yes, we're all kind of going through something, and I think our youth are definitely feeling it. So I do want to share that, amongst the things that our youth are dealing with, one of the great things that the club has been able to do is that they've been able to serve more than 355,000 meals to families and first responders throughout the pandemic, folks who are dealing with food instability, or even thinking about where their next meal is going to come from. And so I think that's one of the things that I genuinely, truly appreciate about the Boys and Girls Club, is that they're always looking out for the well-being of the youth that we serve. So with that being said, I wanted to quickly take a quick moment to toss it over to someone who supports the work that we're doing and someone who continues to be a voice for many youth in our community. There is a video from will.i.am that will be played here quickly, and then we're going to jump right back into the panelists and asking some more questions in regards to what they're doing and how we kind of go forward.
What's up, everybody? This is will.i.am. I want to thank the Boys and Girls Club from West San Gabriel Valley for all that you do. Thank you so much, not only from my heart, but the kids that we are helping. Tomorrow is so technological. AI, robotics, machines, sensors. And for kids that come from the communities that I come from, that we come from, they need STEM skill sets. They need to be mentored and encouraged to go down this path, so that when they wake up in this robotic technological tomorrow, they know exactly how to compete and what careers are there for them. So at the I Am Angel Foundation, we are making it our most urgent purpose to get these skill sets in the hands of today's youth. And I want to thank the Boys and Girls Club for helping us on this mission to ensure that these kids have the tools that they need to get educated. I wish everybody a great event this morning, and I look forward to continue our partnership.
Great, thank you, Will. A really cool fact is that Will comes from the same neighborhood as many of the kids that we are trying to support this morning. From Boyle Heights to 7 Grammy Awards, they continue to support with their I Am Angel Foundation, and has supported club members with transformative educational opportunities through technology. So definitely want to thank them for sharing the information that they provided, and continue and thank them for continuing to support the work that we're doing. So moving kind of back into, the questions and the conversation that we've been having, I wanted to know, what are your organizations currently doing, and what can we all do as a community to continue to bridge the gaps that many of our youth are dealing with right now? And so I'm going to throw it in a different direction. Florencio, I'd love to start with you. What are you thinking about when we're talking about organizational needs and ultimately bridging the gaps as well?
Thank you. So one of the things that we like to point out is local government, particularly county government, is really that social safety net for so many families. So many of our families receive services from the county through our Department of Public Social Services. Some of them receive assistance through the Department of Children and Family Services. There's also workforce development through our Workforce Development Aging and Community Services Department, and of course, enrichment activities through our Department of Parks and Recreation. So the county in the last year has really stepped up its efforts to provide that assistance to families. One of the first things that Supervisor Solis did at the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic was to introduce a motion to provide a $3 million grant to the Los Angeles Regional Food Bank, because one of the first things that was our families were facing because of the impact of COVID-19 was loss of work, loss of income, which meant loss of food for a lot of these families. Food insecurity was probably the first thing on everyone's mind back in March of 2020. So by providing this grant to the Regional Food Bank, the county was able to partner with them, along with many other community organizations, to provide regional food distributions, not only throughout our district here in the first district, but really throughout the Olive Valley County. And in the last year, we've hosted well over 100 food distributions, provided more than 7 million pounds of food to hundreds of thousands of families who really need it and are depending on us. Other things that we've done as an organization is we've provided additional funding for mental health support through the Department of Mental Health, through our community-based organizations and some of our partner groups, because we know the impact that this is having on our students, and it needs to be addressed not only in the future, but also immediately now. So the county has really taken a comprehensive approach in ensuring that we're providing the resources necessary to our families to keep them going through this pandemic, but also letting them know that we're here in the long haul, and to ensure that they have access to additional resources, that we're partnering with other organizations to ensure that there's going to be more resources coming their way, whether it's mental health support, whether it's funding for food insecurity, whether it's direct cash assistance, whatever it may be. And, frankly, when we return to some sense of normalcy, be able to resume programming, the fact that our libraries are open again and folks and kids can go back and check out a book in person means a lot, because it's something tangible that you can do. You're not in front of a screen, as was stated earlier, for 7 or 8 hours out of the day. You can go out into the world, you can interact with other people, you can go and, physically picking up an object, means so much to someone, like a child, like a book can transport you into a different world, and it holds a lot of meaning, and of course, one of the biggest undertakings that we've done right now through COVID is vaccine distributions. The only way to get back to any sense of normalcy is to ensure that we have community or herd immunity. And we need to make sure that those vaccines are accessible to the community and that they're distributed in an equitable manner. And Supervisor Solis has directed the Department of Public Health to provide mobile vaccine clinics throughout the district to the communities that desperately need them. Some of the communities in the first district, including communities that are served by the West San Gabriel Valley Boys and Girls Club, were probably the most heavily impacted by COVID-19, had some of the highest infection rates, some of the highest death rates. And of course, those families now need our support more than ever. And so the supervisors directed the Department of Public Health to ensure that the vaccines are being distributed in the communities that are desperately in need of them. But not only saying, we need to make sure that they are available, but making sure that they go out into the community. So we've partnered with organizations like Curative or Fulgent Genetics through the Department of Public Health to send out mobile units out into the community, into senior housing facilities, into public parks, into shopping centers, civic centers, to make sure that the vaccines are in an accessible location. Not everyone has access to a vehicle, and even public transportation may not necessarily be an option for someone. So for them to have to travel to one of the megapods, like at Cal State LA, or Fairplex or the Forum, isn't necessarily a possibility for an individual. So we want to make sure that those vaccines get to them, so that they're protected, and we're making sure that they not only get their first dose if it's a multi-dose vaccine, but that they get scheduled for their second dose as well. And we'll continue to follow up, and we'll send mobile units wherever they need to be, and work with community-based organizations to ensure that the access is there. And that's really, I think, the underlying message from our office is that there's equitable access to resources.
And speaking of which, I think it's so interesting you share that. I just got pinged from Albertsons that, they are now carrying the vaccine and they're making it available to folks. So that's really cool that folks like yourself are working to make sure that is accessible to everybody. With that being said, Hattie, I would love to know, from your perspective, with the work that you're doing specifically with the school, is there anything that your organization is currently doing to bridge these collective gaps that are happening within, within the needs for our youth?
Sure, yes. So as soon as the pandemic hit back in March 2020, we issued technology, so hotspots, laptops, iPads. Since then, we started a food pantry in light of food insecurity. We have laundry services for our families. As we talked about earlier, mental health professionals. We have 3 counselors that have provided both online and in-person group therapy, one-on-one therapy, and family counseling. We assist with housing and homeless services, and also provide social opportunities to build connection. There's been 2 groups, Men of Crete and Moms Meetup, that we've started since the pandemic to really engage our parents and to hear what's going on with them, and really just provide a platform for them to connect. And then, of course, our kids have a social hour once a week online. That was during the pandemic. So I think to bridge the gap, what we've always done historically has just been to partner with other nonprofits and organizations that are doing the work, right? We're a school. I can't provide mental health services. My background is not in mental health, but I can partner with USC, which we do, and they provide social workers for us, right? Or UCLA, Cal State Dominguez Hills, there's several. And the same goes with housing. We don't provide housing, but we work with HOPIX and we work with LASA, and they provide housing services. So we've built relationships and partners with folks like that are on the panel at these organizations to provide the services and really bridge the gap. So I think that's the most important thing, because we can't do it all, right? We just do what we can and we do our best, but really collaborating in a meaningful way that's going to provide for the needs that our youth and families have is important.
So what I heard you say is teamwork makes the dream work. I live for that. Yes, it definitely does. Thank you, Hattie. So Carolina, your thoughts. What are some of the things? I know USC is such a major school. And so kind of thinking about how big your institution is and how big the community is surrounding your institution. What are you thinking about? How are you thinking about, the needs of the organization and ultimately bridging the gaps that are present?
Sure, thank you, Jonathan. And similar to some of my fellow panelists, yes, USC's been doing quite a lot in the communities. Also establishing a vaccine distribution on the campus for our local communities. Food distribution started immediately when the pandemic hit in the East area, and also in South Los Angeles through a partnership with the Weingart YMCA and a partnership with St. Agnes School. We are very interested in continuing to support our neighbors and our local communities, and really doing this, as everyone's mentioned, it's done through collaborative partnerships. And so that's our foundation for the work that we do, and making sure that we are just working with those that have been hardest hit by the pandemic and the economy, and those are our neighbors. Through our work with Good Neighbors, we've funded this last year, and we're in the process of going through the grant cycle now to fund programs that will launch July 1st. Currently, we're really pleased to support the Boys and Girls Club of San Gabriel and the East area. They're doing a phenomenal job. We've funded programs like and partnered with, for example, Las Fotos program. This is a great example of how youth are developing their leadership skills. They have a digital promotoras program in which young women ages 13 to 18 collaborate, identify community issues, and they learn about photojournalism. They become photojournalists, and they're telling the stories about the issues that are most important in their communities. So they're uplifting the voice of their communities. That's one of the great programs that we partner with. We partner with Puente Learning Center in Boyle Heights also with their college and career program, and they are also providing social emotional support to students. Another way that we're helping students with developing their leadership skills and also the social emotional aspect is through partnerships with the Kaufman School of Music at USC, the Thornton School of Music, and we have an arts program as well. So through dance, music, and arts, and this is all happening virtually, students are engaging in ways to tackle their the physical aspect of getting up and moving around, but also they are tackling hard issues. They talk about concepts of, equity, of tolerance, of community. And so, what is courage? What is strength? And so they tackle all of these kinds of concepts in the work that they do through music, through dance, through theater, and bridging the digital divide as well. We partner with organizations that are also helping to provide, including the Boys and Girls Club, that are providing laptops, hotspots. So, again, our priorities are very broad in terms of, again, being able to, as someone else said, fill the gap, right? Fill those gaps where we can, provide university resources, whether it's social work students or other experts or resources to help just again maximize these partnerships, these collaborations. I know we partner with the county as well, with the city. So there is a lot going on, and we're looking forward to continuing to build those relationships. And that's what we're doing. And we're also revamping our grant making program so that we can make it more accessible, more community centered. We're going to establish a community input mechanism so that we can have more input on our grant program. So we really are, that's one thing that we're moving forward with, and you'll see more of. So like, for example, USC established a Department of Public Safety Community Advisory Board to provide feedback. So we're really looking forward to, again, more co-creation, collaboration with our communities and with our other anchor institutions in the area.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Wanted to get your thought. I know Andre talked a lot about this idea of really needing to really just show up and give the youth kind of the voice to be able to kind of talk about what their needs are. So I wanted to know from your perspective, Andre, like how have you been, the stories you're hearing from the youth in regards to what's going on around them, how are you working collectively to bridge the gaps for the needs that they might have?
Can you see me?
No, we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay, well, I'm here someplace in the world. You're supposed to start later. So what I'm doing is I run programs for prisons. So I work in prisons around the country. I literally just walked out of a prison about 45 minutes ago, where I work with the fathers and the mothers who are incarcerated. And over this last year of the pandemic, there has been no physical visits of any children or family loved ones to the prisons. So it's been extremely hard on children of incarcerated parents. So what we've been doing in our agency, the Academy of Hope, is going out and visiting the kids on behalf of the parents and bringing them stories and reading books and just engaging with these kids, because for a whole physical year, there's been no contact. So that's been our key thing for 2020 and 2021, to let these kids know that they're not forgotten, that their parents love them, that their parents are doing well and trying to do and be better And they're encouraging them because the stat says 70% of kids with parents in jail will go to jail themselves. And the connection that we were having, which was sponsoring the parents and supporting them to help their children, was put on hold for almost over a year now. It's been well over a year with, not seeing in person your children, hugging your daughters and hugging your sons, whatever the thing is. So we're really, really focused on engaging in the community, going to the neighborhoods, going to the houses, taking them out for pizza, taking them out bowling, doing the things that we can to let the kids know that their parents love them and their parents are trying to do better and they're trying to get home to them as fast and as soon as possible. So that is a huge need on our end. And that's nationwide. There's 2.2 million people in jail, and a large percentage of those folks have kids. So there's a lot of children in this country who haven't had mom or dad in a long time. So we're trying to fill that gap, keep them engaged, keep their spirits up, and we just have to wait out the pandemic. There's some things you can't get around.
Wow, that hit me. I'm not going to even lie, that really hit me. And I'm trying to keep it together. Thank you, Andre, for sharing that. I think it is important to, it seems like the more we know and the more that we do, the more stories we're hearing. This is why this work is so important. And I'm so thankful. Yeah, there you are.
I'm not a techie. Listen.
Yeah, I get it. It's okay.
The things screen move.
It's okay. But thank you for sharing that. Wow. So Michelle, I would love to hear your perspective on this question. I think, dealing with so much that's happening around us and things moving so quickly and changing so rapidly. How have you and your organization been working to kind of bridge the gaps that continue to keep coming up?
Well, in the field of hospice, we have been hit by the pandemic very, very hard. Like Andre said, similar to the prison system, anybody who lives in a nursing facility or assisted living facility has not been able to have any visitors for over a year. And so it's just starting to lighten up, but it's still very difficult to see your loved one if they're dying in a facility. Funerals, attending funerals, if you have a parent die or a loved one pass away, the mortuaries are so backed up that it takes months to even have a service put in place because of the pandemic and all of the deaths that have occurred in Southern California, especially. We've also, our organization has, when the pandemic hit, we launched a massive campaign to help get food distributed to our patients and their families, mostly the families, because our patients really don't eat a lot, but we partnered with churches and food banks and restaurants. And last year, we were able to distribute over 10,000 meals. There was also a huge PPE shortage, which is personal protective equipment. Hospitals didn't have access, hospices especially didn't. And so we were able to distribute over 70,000 units of PPE to families, to hospice nurses, to hospitals, in order to ensure that the healthcare workers were keeping themselves safe and that they were also keeping their loved ones safe. And then finally, I mentioned before, we've made a huge effort doing virtual weekly bereavement workshops for those who have lost their loved one. That's been a tremendous challenge, the overwhelming grief that people have experienced, children included, of losing a loved one due to the pandemic. And so, if anyone wants support, we offer that free of charge virtually, so anybody can attend from anywhere in the nation.
Thank you so much for sharing that information, Michelle. And it's useful and it's important, specifically in this time. So thank you so much. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and turn it over actually to Michelle to talk a little bit about their story. Michelle Wolfenstein, they are joining us today in support of their organization and sharing their incredible story with us. And so what I wanted to do quickly is just give the stage to you and take us through your journey. Tell us a little bit about what you've been through and how that has shaped the work that you continue to do.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jonathan. And thank you everyone for being here today and for supporting the Boys and Girls Club. I am super excited to be supporting such an amazing organization and to also share my unexpected journey of finding and living my purpose and hopefully helping you to find out how you can find your purpose through trials and tribulations. So believe it or not, I am a 2-time stroke survivor. I am 39 years old, and I had my first stroke at the age of 11 due to a rare congenital deformity that I was born with known as an AVM. An AVM stands for arteriovenous malformation, which is a tangle of blood vessels and arteries that you're born with. And as you can see from the slide, my AVM was that mass at the top of my brain. And basically, it's that mass is arteries and veins that lack capillaries in between. So what happens as your blood pressure rises, those veins and arteries burst and cause hemorrhagic strokes. So that's how I was diagnosed, was from my first stroke. And basically, I was told that it was too large to operate because it went through 3 different parts of the brain. So I had to do radiation treatment, which was scheduled over the course of the next 3 years. So I had my first radiation treatment about a month later in 1994. I was told it would be no big deal, that I could eat ice cream, and I loved ice cream, so I was super excited. However, I was really traumatized by what I experienced. They screwed with like an electric screwdriver or drill, 8-pound metal helmet into 4 different points in my skull. And I had to wear that helmet for 8 hours because that's how the neurosurgeons would get the coordinates just right. And if they missed, it could cause catastrophic brain damage. Well, with this type of radiation, it takes 6 months to 3 years for results to show. So 6 months after my treatment, I started to experience drop foot on my right side. And then my right leg went completely dead. And then 2 months later, my right arm went completely dead. And so suddenly I was handicapped and I was completely paralyzed on my right side, not from the stroke, but from the radiation treatment, because they zapped the motor strip on the left side of my brain, which causes movement on the right side of the body. And so it was really tough because I had to learn how to do life all over again, had to learn how to write with my left hand, how to tie my shoes with one hand, how to button my pants, how to feed myself, and all of the other activities of daily living. Went through my next treatment a year later. Luckily, there were no negative side effects. And when it came time for that 3rd treatment of radiation, the doctors told me that it was still there, but it was still inoperable. And if I did have that treatment, it would likely compromise my ability to speak or understand language. So what is the most important thing to a teenage girl? Talking on the phone, hanging out with friends. And so I said, yeah, right, I'm not doing that. I'm going to live every day to the fullest. And so I did just that, knowing I had a limited life expectancy. I played volleyball in high school for all 4 years with a disability of having a paralyzed right side. I learned how to skip my way around the court. I would serve with one hand. And by the time I was a senior, I was a varsity volleyball captain and the most enthusiastic bench warmer in all of the league. I went to college, I traveled all over the world, I met my amazing husband, and I took a death and dying class in college. And that's where I fell in love with helping people at the end of their life and helping them to make each moment count. So my husband and I were married in 2005, and this is what my brain looked like in 2006. And as you can see from the slide, there's that large feeder vein that goes kind of down the middle of my brain, and there's that mass there. It's the AVM deep in my brain. And so I just kind of thought of it as a birthmark. It won't bother me. Nothing will happen. I'm just going to live life to the fullest. This is what my brain looked like 2 years later in January of 2008. And what you see on that slide, that white ball there is blood on the brain. And that is a catastrophic, massive stroke. And so the night I had that stroke, it was very, very intense. I was in a coma for 8 days. The doctors told my husband that if they didn't go in and surgically remove the AVM, I would not make it through the night. And if they did, I had a 50-50 chance. So he did the surgery and he told my family I don't have much hope. My best friend wrote my eulogy. Everybody was preparing for my funeral, but my husband refused to give up. And And I just had this beautiful near-death experience, and I was just surrounded by God and so peaceful, but I just knew, I heard a voice that said I had to come back. And so I did. 8 days later. And when I did come back, I look pretty good, don't I? I mean, my AVM's gone, I'm smiling, I'm with my husband, and things are good, right? Well, this is what my brain looked like. And as you can see from the slide, I experienced severe brain damage. About a quarter of my brain is just scar tissue. So it is really remarkable that I'm able to sit here and talk with you guys and participate. But it was a really, really long road to recovery and a very difficult path. And so I went through intensive rehab on home health. I had physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. I didn't know what a computer was. I didn't know how to type. This is before iPhones or iPads. And so I intuitively started touching the icons on the screen. That shows the brilliance of Steve Jobs and Apple. And, you know, I was on a catheter for 5 months. I couldn't walk, not everything. I couldn't eat. I had no idea what my own name was, couldn't count past 10. And I remember sitting in my hospital bed and thinking, why me? I'm so depressed. Why did this happen? And then having this amazing epiphany, my goodness, this is what my hospice patients must feel like, right? Weak, wounded, vulnerable, bedbound, but then to have someone come and just be present in the moment and give that comfort. And I thought, I have to go back to work. I have to return to hospice. And so I did. So I was also, at the time I had my stroke, I was working on my master's degree at Chapman University. And there I am 5 months later at graduation. I'm with my classmates and I'm still in a wheelchair at the time. But when it came time to walk across the stage, I actually stood up from my wheelchair. I had 2 of my friends on either side and I walked across the stage and I never got back in a wheelchair again. So one of my most favorite quotes is by Mark Twain. The 2 most important days in your life are the day that you were born and the day you find out why. So my unexpected journey of having 2 strokes helped me to find my why. And I believe that when it comes down to it, we are all created to serve in some capacity. And I know that everyone here today is serving in some way. I wrote a book about my experiences called All We Have Is Today, and I'm happy to say we're going to be raffling that off, and we gave a couple copies to our amazing sponsors. Thank you so much for supporting the Boys and Girls Club. I typed this book with one hand and a damaged brain, and it's gone on to win 3 National Gold Medal Book Awards. And, you know, working in the field of hospice and being with my patients, I find that most of the people I work with, they look back and they ask, did my life have meaning and did I have purpose? And I'm here to say, yes, they did. And yes, you do too. So I want to end with this. Maybe life isn't about avoiding the bruises. Maybe it's about collecting the scars to prove that we showed up for it. So you can't change the past and you can't live a great life inside of your comfort zone. So step outside of yourself, be brave, because it takes a lot of courage just to show up. And today, all of you here, you have showed up for these kids. Your presence is sending a message that you care and that their lives have purpose. So that is amazing, but we want you to take it one step further. Will you make a donation today and support this amazing Boys and Girls Club? Will you help to ensure that these kids have the resources that they need to overcome social injustice, racial inequality, and discrimination? I know that these kids have scars, and for some of them, they run deep. I personally have a scar that runs down the middle of my head, and you can't see it because I have great hair, but we all have scars. And I'm sure some of these kids have scars that are hidden that you never know are there. But with your support today, you're helping to turn those scars into a story of perseverance, a story of hope, a story of bravery. So thank you so much for being here, and please give as generously as you can.
Thank you, Michelle. Wow. You know, the host is not supposed to be near tears. And I am doing my best to fight those off. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And I'm just so grateful that I get to be here with so many amazing individuals who are doing great work. Please, if you can donate today. I mean, it's going to make so many youth lives so much better. Any donation will change the lives, and it's not bad for a Tuesday morning. The donation link has been put in the chat, as well as you can head over to www.wsgbvbgc.org to donate. And while today is, you know, the 4th, thinking of Star Wars, you can make a donation of $19.77 in honor of not only May the 4th, but also in honor of the youth that we serve. So with that being said, I wanted to quickly say thank you to everybody who ultimately shared their story today. What we are going to go ahead and do now is, this is, I think, the part outside of these amazing stories, this is the part that people enjoy the most, is taking home something for free. So you give a little, you get a little, and I definitely am here for that as well. And so with that being said, I'm going to turn here to the chat. Julissa Zapata, you won the signed copy of All We Have Is Today. I'm actually going to be purchasing that when I get off myself, so I can have something good to read. Bob Jen, you've won a $100 gift card. So technically, if you take $19.77 out of that, you'll have somewhere around $80 for yourself. Marley Roy, you won a certificate from the Catalina Express, some self-care there for you. And Charles Karsh, I think that's how you say the last name, a new pair of Apple AirPod Pros. So I am excited for you all. Congratulations to all of our winners. Thank you everybody for being here. With that being said, I wanted to not only thank our panelists, but I wanted to thank Michelle, the Boys and Girls Club of West San Gabriel Valley. Thank you for everything that you all are doing for the youth in our community. Our sponsors that were listed at the beginning of this, specifically Hot Topic, thank you for what you're doing. And finally, thank you for watching. Thank you all who are here. We cannot do this work without you all, and I truly, truly appreciate that you are here. I wanted to just lastly say, on part from not only me, but the folks that are out in the community as well, please continue to take care of yourself. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. And with your support, we can continue to do whatever it takes for youth, families, and communities. Continue to subscribe and follow us on social media. You can follow, again, you can find all of our handles at WSGVBC, VBGC. And ultimately, you can find more information about what we're doing, what we're continuing to do at www.wsgbvbc.org. Thank you so much, everyone, and you all have a wonderful afternoon.